So we went and got some new T-shirts yesterday. We went to Hot Topic. That was kind of fun. And I had to get one of Ghost because I'm a fan of the band. And what better way to let people know what bands you listen to than to get... And it's an awesome shirt. It's got these... It's got the cool effects all over it. And yeah, so kind of fun. Glad I have it. So I wanted to talk a bit about... So last night on MasterChef, they eliminate Sherry and Suba. Spoiler alert. I'm going to get into spoilers on Big Brother, too. And I understand there are people that are upset, and I get it. I get it, because Noah was the one that screwed up last night. Here's what Chef Ramsay did. He looked at those 6 people and said, there are 4 of them I can realistically see running a kitchen. Suba and Sherry are not 2 of those people. And that's what it was. Did Noah screw up? Absolutely. But he... Dorian, Sarah, and Nick are the 4 strongest players. So even though I don't think Nick had a great night either, Nick and Noah get to skate by into the Final 4 because they've been the strongest through the whole season. I didn't like it because they declared a winning team, and I thought, wait, that's not right. And it wasn't right only because Noah wasn't able to cook the beef. Dorian had to cover for him, and as soon as I heard him saying, beef's my speciality, here I go, and I'm thinking, this has been his problem all year. Anytime he gets all cocky and arrogant, he screws up, and this is what happened again last night. So while I understand some fans not being happy that he's still on the show, and Suba and Sherry got the boot, Suba, we knew he wasn't going to win. We knew that. And Sherry, I like her, but she wasn't going to win it either. So when you're picking who's going to stay and who's going to go at this stage of the contest, I can understand why Chef Ramsay said, all right, I'm going to take those 2 out now. And maybe that's part of the reason why Micah got eliminated last week. Maybe it was he's not going to make it that far anyways. There's no way he's going to be able to handle it in the kitchen when we go to London. So we'll push him out now. I know. And it sucks, but at the same time, for the show, when they're grading things out, there is sort of a I've always seen this, that there's sort of a, well, who's going to be the best leader aspect of it. That's why I've picked Sarah right from the start. Sarah can put out mediocre food, and they're fine with it. They're nowhere near as harsh with her food as they are with some others. And again, I get it. So, I know there's fans who may not be happy with what happened last night, but I got it, and at least with Suba, that should quiet down some of the complaints about last week. Tonight on Big Brother, they did a double eviction. First, Jessica was out. Then, and again, this is spoiler territory, right? So for those of you on the West Coast that haven't seen it at the time this goes live, spoilers. It's not a surprise Jessica was out, so that's not really a huge spoiler thing. But Nicole wins head of household, and all I thought was, okay, she's going to put Mickey and Holly up. They are the strongest players. You need to put them up. And Mickey and Holly were very concerned they were going to be 6th and 5th place because they knew that people should gun for them in the house. They're the best players. So instead she nominates Christy and Tommy. And I thought, okay, so she's going to nominate Christy and Tommy. You can backdoor somebody. Christy barely misses out on the veto. And honestly, part of me was kind of heartbroken because I wanted to see Christy win the veto just to see what would happen. But Cliff wins the veto. He keeps the nominations the same. And as soon as that happened, Christy knew she was done, sitting next to Tommy. Now, after she gets voted out, and Julie asks her and says, do you think that the house made the right decision? She says, no. I agree. Christy can't win squat. If you want to win those last few weeks of competitions, you want to make sure that you've got the best, strongest players out of the house, which would have meant getting Mickey or Holly out of the house now. I think this was a huge miscalculation on Nicole's part. We'll see. But, you know, for me anyways, it basically guarantees that Tommy probably goes next if he doesn't win Head of Household. I don't know who won Head of Household after the show was done. But it's going to be a tough slog from here, because now for Nicole, Tommy should be gunning for her, and that's if he wins. And for Mickey and Holly, well, they're just going to take each other. and all of the horribleness that's been going on there. Of course, in the house this past week, they had a major blow up between the two of them, which appears to be kind of glossed over now, but some of the way that he was talking to her and some of the way he was treating her, kind of a crappy way to treat somebody that you're in a relationship with. I will say this. Having a relationship where you're on camera 24/7, that's got to be tough, especially since that's where it started. And as Holly said at one point this week, usually when you want to take a break and figure things out, you can physically take a break from the person you're with and figure things out in your head. You can't in the house. So she is stuck with him around, and I think things will be different when they're not in the house. This is why they're called showmances, thanks to Will and Mike Boogie for, I believe it was Will that started the term showmance back in Big Brother 2. I think that's where it started. Don't quote me on that. But that's why they're called that, because they're this romantical thing that's in a house or in a reality show, and then when you get into the real world, it kind of dies. And that's kind of what I expect there as well. So yeah, I'm again, I get eliminating Christy because she's crying all the time and she's aggravating and she's always yelling and screaming and crying, but she doesn't win anything. She doesn't. You know, that's Tommy wins competitions, and Mickey and Holly win competitions, and I think Nicole and Cliff played this one wrong. I absolutely do. I think they played this one completely wrong, and you know, we'll see whether or not I'm right by the end of this. We've got, I think they said 3 weeks left in the house, so this was the one double eviction, and they said, yep, nobody's coming back into the house that got voted out. I've seen some complaining online about the lack of twists this summer, and the fact it's just a basic standard going forward kind of game, and I've also seen comments about how they want next year's casting to be done. I hate to say this, but if Big Brother's ratings are good, I don't think they're going to change the way that they do the casting. I don't. Controversy sells, and I think the heads at CBS that are in charge of this show will say, you know what, things went pretty well this summer. And yeah, people didn't like Jack, and they didn't like Mickey, and they got mad about Nick too, but hey, ratings were pretty strong, so we're gonna cast much the same after this the way we have all the way through, which is too bad. Now, as sort of an add-on to this, I also want to touch on something else. So, for people who may not view wrestling as being reality programming, surprise, it kind of sort of is. And so I don't feel bad about throwing AEW into this, and I'm just going to throw this in at the end. I watched the buy-in. Everybody's been crapping all over the 21-woman Battle Royal. Look, this roster for this company right now is slapped together. There are people from Impact, people from ROH, people from various independent organizations all coming together. You're not going to be able to have this coherent group go into a ring and you know, make it all work. That being said, I didn't like how some of the eliminations worked in that match, but I was sufficiently impressed with some of that roster. And I've seen people saying, oh, their roster's terrible, it's awful, it's horrible. Yes, but you know, it's going to take time, and I find it weird because, you know, we've talked about the AEW, WWE battle, and now, WWE's not taking them seriously as competition. They're laughing them off. They've just started. They haven't even had a show on TV yet. They've just done pay-per-views. When you're doing pay-per-views separated by months, and you're trying to get guys under contract and trying to figure out who's going to be your top guys, your middle guys, and who's going to be at the bottom of the card, and you're trying to get all this figured out, how can you put together a show that can tell the same story as a WWE show where everybody's under contract and they've had months of week to week to week to week to week building? And I have to say, the Eric Rowan reveal this week on SmackDown was okay. Because here's my problem. So, in the footage that shows Roman Reigns having the scaffolding land on him, the scaffolding that landed on him, Rowan had jack and crap to do with that. Absolutely nothing. He was on the other side, just kind of pushed over extra boxes and crap onto him. He didn't actually do any damage. So the idea that he did this all by himself is ridiculous. And yet that seems to be the storyline, because then he slammed Daniel Bryan through a table. And then the other issue I wonder about is Bayley turning heel is perfect. Turning Bayley heel is absolutely amazing, perfect. Do that. Fantastic. But who's the face among the women now? And if you say Becky Lynch, listen to a promo of hers and tell me if she's actually a face. Because she's not. She hasn't been acting like a face since before she won the title. You don't have a face on the roster. Now there's word that, well, Liv Morgan's going to show up after the pay-per-view and she's going to be the next contender for the title. You got to build her up. You can't just throw somebody to the wolves like that. You have to build them. Anyways. And every other week, Alexa Bliss is sometimes she's supposed to be good, and then she's supposed to be evil, and then she's good, and then she's... I don't get it. It's really, really weird. So I am anxious for AEW's Wednesday night show that starts in October. I intend to watch that every week. Hopefully it's carried on a network up here. I haven't heard yet who's carrying it in Canada. And I'm anxious to see what kind of story they can tell. Again, it involves some patience. They're going to have some really crappy shows out of the gate because they're starting. It's a brand new company. And so it's going to happen. But I have to say that Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, that's an amazing tag team. Apparently their t-shirts are selling very well. Jericho's the right pick for the first champion because people know who Chris Jericho is. You could have given it to Hangman Page, sure. But people don't really know who Hangman Page is. So it gets a little more gravitas by giving it to Jericho out of the gate. And let's hope that Jon Moxley's run of bad luck is almost done. He's supposed to wrestle November 9th against Kenny Omega. Let's hope that happens. And Kenny Omega's been on a bit of a losing streak himself, which is fine. When you're in a position of power in the company, which Omega seems to be with the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes, put other guys over. That's a really good way of doing things. So I'm excited, and I again, there are little things WWE does that I go, oh, that's interesting. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that I'm like, Like, for instance, and I'll close it with this when it comes to the WWE part of this. So they announced that Bray Wyatt's going to have a shot at the winner of Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman in a Hell in a Cell. And then they do a Firefly Funhouse this past Monday, which spells it out as well. Could you not have had a main event where Seth Rollins is against Braun Strowman? Somebody wins the title match. The lights go out. When they come up, Bray Wyatt's in the ring, and he drops the champ. The crowd would go completely mental. Not only that, but you could have had Bray Wyatt come out earlier in the night and drop somebody else. Sort of like you did with Jerry Lawler. Just have him drop somebody else, so you've gone, oh, Bray's already had his segment for the night, Bray's done. Then when he comes out for a second time that night, you haven't really ruined him, and it leaves you thinking, is he after the title or is he just losing it? And then the next night on Raw, you can announce, hey, Bray Wyatt's going to get a shot as The Fiend against Seth Rollins. My other problem with it is a simple one. Since he came back as The Fiend, he's won, 2-3 matches? So, has it been that many? So hot-shotting him into a title position seems weird, because he hasn't built himself up. And going back to AEW, where wins and losses seem like they're going to matter. For instance, you had Jack Evans and I'm trying to remember the Latino name for the other first tag partner. And this is where AEW is going to struggle for a bit, is just people not necessarily knowing who they are. You have these guys go in there, they're on a losing streak, they lose another match, and they snap after. So this is how you can work wins and losses into heel turns, face turns, and into making feuds a little bit more interesting. And that was a fun match on the pre-show as well. That was a really fun match on the pre-show. Really, really enjoyed that. And I'm anxious for the tag tournament, which starts their first week on TNT. So, fingers crossed. I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, do not just compare AEW straight out to WWE. WWE's got decades and decades and decades of experience backstage, and they've been putting together shows every single week. AEW's just starting out, and they've got a bunch of guys who are learning on the job, and it is a completely different product. So I'm not going to judge AEW in the negative and say, oh, this thing sucks, until they've had about 6 months on the air to really iron down who's under contract, who their top guys are, get their feuds together, and really, build things. It takes a while. It's not something you can just do overnight. So I'm excited and kind of, fingers crossed on that one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support and for watching. And I want to reveal, for people who lasted all the way, the newest item that I've started listening to a bunch is Billie Eilish. Discovered Billie Eilish 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I know the rest of the world figured her out first, but I don't listen to pop music. And then I listened to Billie, and I'm like, this music is amazing. This is fantastic. So I have both of her CDs. I was going to say two, but there's only two. So I have both of her CDs, and honestly, fantastically talented. Very, very talented artist. So, just proven, I might be older, but I'm still willing to listen to new music when it's good. Because I know for many years I've kind of said, oh, music sucks now. Maybe music's starting to get better again. And we're starting to get into a period where I'll actually start listening to certain pop artists again. I also I should mention this. There were some Taylor Swift fans melting down because it looks like Tool's album's going to be number 1 and Taylor Swift's going to be number 2 in both physical sales and overall listening online. I don't know what the obsession is with being number 1, and I don't know why there's all these kids saying the new band Tool. Not many things trigger me, but it reminds me of years and years and years ago when Wayne's World came out, and a friend of mine said, I really like that new song from Queen. And I looked at her thinking to myself, Freddie Mercury's been dead for a while. What? And she's like, yeah, that Bohemian Rhapsody. And I'm like, that song from 1974? That new song? It kind of feels like that, where it's like, seriously. So for anybody who doesn't listen to Tool, and I especially laughed to it at girls that pointed out the length of the tracks on Fear Inoculum and said, who's going to listen to this? 12 minutes. I'm just going to die. I can't listen to a song for 12 minutes. It's your loss. The songs are amazing. I listened to the entire album 1.5 times yesterday, and I'm really getting into it. And honestly, it's a masterpiece. So I'm very glad that it's doing well. I don't care that it's number 1, but it's interesting that Taylor Swift fans are so obsessed with it being number 1. Taylor's got to be number 1. Why? What? Fans don't make more money. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about that too. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.